Welcome to the Stress Free Dentist Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Block. As always, I want to inspire, entertain, and educate you on the best tools and technologies out there. My goal is to help make your practice and career more profitable, efficient, and most importantly, more enjoyable. And check out all of my nonfiction and children's books on Amazon, and check out the stressfreedentist.com for any upcoming events. And if you're feeling you're a dental professional that's burnt out, or you just feel stuck or want to get to that next level, visit the International Academy of Dental Life Coaches or www.iadlc.com, and we'll get you matched up with a life coach that understands dentistry. I also wanted to thank our amazing sponsor, Equa Marketing. They have helped me and my practice over the years to improve with SEO and website performance. And to find out how you can make your practice dominate in your area, go to www.equa.com/MSMSFD to book your complimentary meeting. Again, that's www.ekwa.com/MSMSFD. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. And today I am joined by Dr. Pamela Maragliano Muniz. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm good. Did I get your name right?
You did. Nice work.
Awesome. Yes. All right. It's a good start. Excellent. I've been super excited to chat with you. I see you all over the place, dental economics. I see you on social media, and just wanted to hear about your story and how you juggle everything in your life. But first, just tell me how you even got involved with dentistry.
I would say it's happenstance. Well, for starters, thank you for having me on. I'm so thrilled. I see you on social media mostly. So this is kind of our first time actually sitting down, having a legit conversation beyond saying hello at a trade show. So I'm just as excited to be chatting with you. So thank you. But back to your question. Yeah, it's more like happenstance. My dad made my sister become a dental hygienist. He thought it was a good job for a woman, which I think it's a good job for anybody, but back 25 years ago, you could say things like that. And he felt that having something that you can just always have and you'll never have to depend on a partner would be really important for both of us. So sent my sister off to hygiene school with the agreement that after you graduate from dental hygiene school, you can do whatever you want. So she's a dental hygienist. It's my turn. And I kind of made a deal with them because it's hard to get into dental hygiene school. Oftentimes, people have to apply years and years and years in a row to finally get in. So my deal was I'll apply to dental hygiene school. And if I don't get in, I will go to vet tech school. And that can be my good job for a woman. And then I can move on and find a different job. And so he said, fine. But I got right into dental hygiene school with zero interest in dental hygiene, zero experience in dentistry. I didn't even floss at the time. And it was amazing. I fell in love with it. And I went into it knowing that that really wasn't my end point with an associate's degree in hygiene, but I did love it. And so I moved. When I graduated, I asked my sister to quit her job. And I was like, let's move to Boston. We'll go get our bachelor's at Forsyth. So the two of us just applied to one school, which was Forsyth, because that's where we decided we were going. And thankfully, we both got in. At the time, it was affiliated with Northeastern University. And that's where we went. So I started practicing dental hygiene in Boston. And because I had no dental experience, I was mesmerized, like in a stupid way, during the periodic exam. Because if I was lucky, I could spot a problem. 90% of the time, I had no clue. But the dentist just seemed so clever. They could spot a problem and they just had the answer right there. And so I learned while I was practicing hygiene that, maybe dentistry was what I wanted to do. And I worked with prosthodontists. So in my brain, becoming a dentist meant becoming a prosthodontist. So I went into dental school thinking, well, if I'm going to be a dentist, I have to be like them. So I'm going to be a prosthodontist. So that's sort of how it happened.
And where are you originally from? You said you and your sister applied to Forsyth. Where are you originally from?
New York.
And then after Forsyth, where did you end up going to dental school and prosthodontics?
So when you live in Boston, and you're affiliated with different dentists. So I started temping. So I worked in a lot of different offices, but the offices I landed in and my sister's office were all Tufts people. And they were like, you have to go to Tufts. There's no option for you. You must go. And so I was like, I must go. So thankfully, I got into Tufts and I went there, and I was one of those weirdos that loved dental school. Like on my worst day, like I remember sitting in my car crying. I had a bad day. I dumped coffee on myself. I probably fell. Like it was just like one of those days that like everything just was terrible. I just remember thinking that there's no other place I'd rather be. So I just loved dental school, and I decided, which was kind of cool. I kind of felt like I had to like go to like wherever I got in, I had to go to dental school. But when it came to pros, I had a choice. I felt like I could, I was pretty competitive with my applications. And so I picked UCLA. So I went from Tufts to UCLA and then spent a little time in LA and then back to Boston. And that's where I've landed.
Yeah, you and I are actually not that far from each other. I'm in Acton, which is about 30 minutes west of Boston.
So it's kind of ridiculous that we don't ever meet for coffee or something.
Yeah, we got to make that happen.
We should.
And now tell me about after you moved back to Boston. Did you set up a practice? Did you associate for a while? What happened there?
So I don't know why. I always felt like you should do more than one thing. So just in case, I don't know, like physically, I can't be a dentist my whole life. I knew pretty quickly that working 5 days a week in hygiene would cripple me. And so I never thought I would be a 5 day a week dentist. And so I've never been that. So I always split my time between practice and teaching. So I started teaching at Tufts, and I worked in a practice in Cambridge that I absolutely loved. And I went back to the office where I was a hygienist, now coming back as a prosthodontist. So that was a journey.
Yeah, that is you've had quite the journey with going from RDH, dental school, LA, becoming a prosthodontist, and then back to Boston. And now, do you have your own practice right now?
I do now. So I worked as an associate in a few different practices, and I loved it. But I kind of always thought that like, I don't know. And I think it's more of an old school mentality. I think I have that, I guess. And so I thought that it was an end point. Like it was really what all dentists should do, is have their practice. I know that's not the case anymore. So even though I was an associate in multiple practices, I was able to earn some pretty decent clinical experience and some confidence, because you need that too, and some money. And basically, I bought a practice 10 years ago this month.
Oh, so you've had your 10-year anniversary. That's great.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a ride, but I absolutely love my practice. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Now, I had some really great associateships, and some not so good ones. I associated for way too long, in my opinion. I just got stuck in that groove of just going into work and leaving and not having to deal with being an owner. But personally, if I could go back in time, I wish I had been an owner sooner. Um, what was your experience like with your associateships?
Probably the same. It's interesting because while I, fundamentally loved what I was doing, I like working with a team. I do like, actually, even though I want to say I'm a solo practitioner, but I do have I have 1.5 associates now. But for the most part, it's kind of lonely being a solo practitioner. I like the group practice setting, even though I don't have that. So I feel that there are lessons that I learned from each of my associateships. I worked in 3 offices in Boston. I worked in a couple in California too, but I felt like I had what I considered problems in each practice. I'd move on to a different practice and I didn't have that problem, but then I had another problem. And so I just kind of came to the realization that I think you'll always have problems, even though you love what you do and you like who you work with and you love your patients. But I just wanted to own those problems and be able to really be responsible for the solutions to those problems. So that's sort of what happened for me. And I remember distinctly 10 years ago, like the day I bought the practice was like a whirlwind. Like I remember them like coming in, like changing the credit card terminal and like all of this stuff. And I remember the end of the day being like, what the F did I just do? Like, this is crazy. But while I wish I became an owner sooner, probably, I think it's taken me a few years though to like really get comfortable in my own skin and really be confident in who I am and the relationships I want to have with my patients and my approach to patient care. I feel like I started off like, as long as you stay as a patient, like I'm good. Like we'll just like work around whatever that means. And now I don't really share that sentiment at all. I feel like this is what I'm about. Like you either are going to get on the train or there's plenty of other trains to get on in this area. So you don't have to be my patient. Not everybody's cup of tea, and I can live with that.
Yeah, I associated in different offices, and I took those experiences, and I figured out what I wanted to do, what I didn't want to do. I took the successful things they were doing and the unsuccessful things and tried to mold them to my own when I did become an owner. So I think it's great to go out there and try different types of offices, different type of practices. And yeah, it took me a while to get confidence in myself, first as an associate and then for sure as an owner. You had a great story where you actually completely turned over your clinical team, correct? And back in 2020, can you tell me about that?
I sure can. So I bought my practice 10 years ago, 2014, and that practice was 32 years old at the time. And the assistant had been there for 32 years. The owner, I didn't really get along with that well. While I respect her and all the things, it just was like too small an office for two people, like too many chiefs, you know? And so she didn't stick around for too long. And so I felt that it was important because I was changing decor, I was changing different things to keep the team the same. This way, patients didn't get freaked out and head for the hills. And I did that for 6 years. And even though I kind of bought my practice with a vision, and I, at that point, have been lecturing for 10 years, right? 10, no, 4 or 5 years on dental caries. And I have like this specific approach to prevention. Like nobody in the office really cared. And I'm not saying cared like you should be like, oh, she's like on the lecture circuit. No, no, no. I felt like my protocols should be practiced in my practice. Like that's what we should be doing. And I would maybe bring in new products, bring new technologies, and it just wasn't adopted by my team, and they just weren't my people. And it just became so evident to me during COVID when we were closed that I always say like I had like that Jerry Maguire moment where like you woke up sweating and you're like, I have to make a change and I don't even care what the outcome is, but something's going to change. And for me, it was my whole clinical team. And I did not know, obviously, that there was going to be this like crazy staffing shortage and all the things. But starting over actually was like a rebirth for my practice. Like I thought I would lose patience. I thought that, and I didn't really care. I just felt like if you are here, you're here for me now. Like enough time's gone by that like I can't just be like doing things that I don't even believe in. And I can't tell you what it's done for my practice. It's been unbelievable. The energy in my practice is totally different. The vibe is totally different. The level of care that our patients are getting, so much better. I'm happier. I look forward to going to work. Like there's never a day where, I mean, it's still work, obviously. And there's plenty of times you wake up and you're like, oh, I wish I could be on a beach or whatever. But like for the most part, I'm happy to go into my office every day and I'm happy to be with any combination of my team. And that it hasn't been like that in such a long time that I don't know, I treasure it so much now.
Do you think that there's a lot of fear with dentists to get rid of someone, or they feel like if they, let someone go, that all their patients are going to leave or their practice is going to collapse? But it sounds like you didn't give into that fear, and you created a culture that you wanted. Is that right?
Well, I did give into the fear. I gave into it for 6 years. And so it was one of those things that I just couldn't take it anymore. So I always encourage people to not give in to that fear, because hopefully we don't have another pandemic in our lifetimes. So hopefully you don't have a forced 3 months to think about your life and your practice and your job and all the things. So don't wait for another pandemic to decide, or a life event or something to decide that something has to change. If it has to change, change it. And again, I was very fortunate. So my office manager was the only one that stayed with me. And she is a trained assistant. So she and I just sort of like held it down together until we finally found a hygienist. And one hygienist turned into two, which is now four. And, assisting, I mean, she's my office manager. She's got this like long, beautiful hair, and she'd come in all dressed up, and we'd have an assistant call out or just ghost us. And you'd see her like take her hair and put it in a bun, like, here we go again. But all of that was worth it. We had a revolving door of assistants. Even though we really wanted one and we wanted a great one, we weren't going to rest until we found one. And it was kind of laughable. I mean, there were many, many days, weeks, months where we'd get an assistant in and it like wouldn't even be 10 a.m. And I'm like, she's got to go, get her out of here. Like, this isn't working. Like, my patient's choking on Improgum. Like, this isn't working. And you have to just be unapologetic about what you're about, especially if what you're about is good, and just always be looking, always, don't just, even though, you might have somebody who's been in the practice for a long time. It's actually quite amazing that once I had that turnover, I was like waiting for patients to browbeat me for this. And they were like, oh, thank God this one wouldn't stop talking. Or, oh, I can't believe you kept them as long as you did. And all of a sudden the truth comes out from patients. So, if it's not right and it's not right, unfortunately, everybody knows it's not right. And they'll just say it after you've kind of killed the dead horse.
And how do you keep the culture? How do you keep, you built the team. How do you keep a great culture?
Well, I like to be around people that make me happy. I know that sounds kind of, fundamental, but I do. And I feel like they're my kind of people. And so part of it is we have a good time. We enjoy seeing our patients. I think at the end of the day, like, everybody gets along, and that's a big deal. And everybody's willing to help each other. And so I feel like if you have people that, have that it's not my job mentality, that's not going to fly in my office. Like, you'd be fired on day one if you come in here with that kind of attitude. And not everybody comes in having their best day ever. I mean, we try to, but it's just reality. But you need people around you that'll pick you up and help you get through your day. And we have a lot of teamwork. I'd say we try to have fun. We do outings. I think finding out what their love language is and tapping into that is really important, because people need appreciation right now. It's amazing. I'm not the highest paying employer out there, but I would argue that I'm probably at least up there in the highest paying of appreciation employers. And so, pay attention, what's going on in their lives, like what's interesting to them. If you're going to buy them a little gift, don't just like buy something lame, like give them something that would mean something to them. I do Valentine's for them for Valentine's Day. Every once in a while, something will come up and I'll just send them all a gift card. It's harder now because I'm now buying things for like 11 or 12 people when it was just like 2 or 3 back in the day. But like for my 10-year anniversary, I bought everybody this necklace. So now we all have a necklace with one of our fundamental core values on it. So that was really special. And it was funny because I was giving them appreciation and they were buying me presents for my 10-year. And I was like, no, this isn't what this is about. But, mutual admiration and appreciation and respect, so many things that don't even cost a dime.
That's so many great nuggets right there. That's awesome. What kind of practice do you have? Are you very into technology?
I would say I'm not at the forefront of all the technology, but I would say probably, maybe. So I would say, so I have a small practice. I have 4 operatories that we're maxing out for the most part, not in days, but in the days that we're there, it's a little crazy. And My hygienists have pretty much all the technology right now. The only thing missing is probably AI, and that's probably coming at some point. Um, I'm in the digital workflow. I love my scanners. I have two intraoral scanners. I have a printer. I haven't pulled the trigger on a mill yet, but that might happen. We'll see. I'm hard pressed to believe that I have the time or the skill to be better than my lab tech. And until that day happens, I'm not in a huge rush for that. But I do think knowing about technology and implementing what will have an ROI and benefit your practice is essential, and never resting on what you have being good enough for the long haul. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I love all that stuff. I have the milling machine, the AI, and the 3D printer and the scanners. I love it because it makes me enjoy going into work every day. It re-energizes me. I try to add something at least every year or two, and it's just made me enjoy going into work every day. Now, we haven't even gotten to all the other stuff you do. Tell me about dental economics, because you're actually the editor-in-chief of the magazine Dental Economics and also the chief development officer with Celerant. Can you tell me about both of those endeavors?
Sure. So I guess it goes back to early in my practice. So, having been a hygienist, now a prosthodontist, I'm back in the practice where I was a hygienist. And so we decided to implement caries management into our practice. And we kind of tweaked what was in the Journal of the California Dental Association, the October, November issues in 2007, and tweaked it for private practice. And so we brought what we were doing to the American Dental Association back when they had this competition called the Adult Preventive Care Practice of the Year. And we received that award and that recognition, which was pretty cool. And we did that, I swear to you, because we wanted a plaque for the wall. Like that was it. So we could tell our patients that what we're doing is great. And it turned into so much more than that. So I became like a lecturer overnight without really any intention on doing so. I didn't take, public speaking skills or any, it just like sort of happened. But I also believed that you should never say no to something out of fear. So I was like, even though this like scares the crap out of me, like I'm just going to do it, and I'm just going to like ride this wave. And, I'm sure at some point people will get sick of me and I'll just go back to teaching and practicing, because that's where I thought I was kind of done from a career standpoint. And so lecturing, writing led to an opportunity with who is the publisher I'm with now, but they were Penwell at the time, where I had opportunities to write a column and shoot videos. And just sort of learned along the way. And 3 years ago, I was offered the opportunity to be editor of Dental Economics. And it's such a huge honor. It's still an honor to me today, even though it takes up so much of my time, but it's an absolute labor of love and I adore it.
And tell me about Celerant.
Sure. So along the way, I was invited to be part of Celerant's Best of Class panel. So Celerant is a consulting group, but they also have this nonprofit wing where a small group of us come together every year, try to identify new technologies or technologies that are continually evolving, and give them a recognition. And so I started off on the Best of Class panel, and it's fun. I mean, basically, I go to a ton of trade shows and I have access to lots of different companies. So I get to see new technologies as they're coming along. And we duke it out every year, which ones are the best, and they receive an award. And so I was doing that for a few years. And then Dr. Lou Schumann, who runs this whole circus, is invited me to be a chief development officer for as a consultant. So every once in a while, I'll get matched with a company that could use my expertise, and I work with them. So it's neat to see the other side of things, from idea to developing a product or a technology and getting FDA approval for it. I have such a respect now for companies that go through all of this testing and metrics and reporting and everything before it even lands in our hands as dentists. It's really quite remarkable.
Oh, that's so cool. They get to see the all of that going on and kind of the other side of dentistry. And people always ask me, how do you do all that you do with my podcasts and my Facebook group and speeches and lectures and webinars. And to tell you the truth, like I love doing it, like talking to people like you. It's fun. It doesn't feel like work. Doing a number 15 DO, that feels like work. So I enjoy doing all of this. So the day just flies by and I kind of squeeze it all in. And I'm at 3.5 days a week as far as clinical. But how do you manage everything that you do with your office and the magazine and everything else that you're doing?
I think part of it is having a great team around you. So I'm in physically in my practice 4 days a week, but I finish 2 of those days around noon. So while I'm there, hygiene checks or emergencies or anything that comes up, um, I work for the magazine those afternoons from my practice. And then Fridays I devote to the magazine or I'm traveling, for a lecture or something else. And so this is so unscientific and so unhelpful for somebody who has a juggle, but you just do it. It's like, I live and die by my calendar. If it's not in my calendar, it's not happening because I will not remember if I promise to call you on a Tuesday. It's not going to happen. So I have to be very organized about my schedule, but you just do it. I feel like, and this isn't great, but feel like it's been going on for long enough that while it's always still an honor, it's sort of like, okay, I've been to this show, I'm on to the next. So whatever's coming up next becomes my primary priority. I don't, I'm always amazed by, say, like new speakers or people that are just trying to get into the industry and they'll work tirelessly for months on a lecture or something. And I'm like, I just don't have that luxury. So if I'm lecturing next week and I just got home from the American Academy of Aesthetic Dentistry, like I did last night, that's when that's getting priority. So I sort of just one thing at a time. I try not to look at everything because it becomes overwhelming, but you just kind of do, what's next and you're just kind of always moving. So it's good. Time flies.
That's great. Time does when you're busy and you're organized and you're having fun. I want to wrap up with two final questions. Number one, how do we get a hold of you or find out more about what you're up to? And then number two, what advice would you give to the young dentists out there?
Sure. Well, finding me is easy. I'm kind of everywhere. Certainly Instagram is great. Dr. Pamela _Maragliano. I feel like that's kind of the easiest place to find me because I can field questions or anything there. That's probably the easiest way. So, social media is the best. So Facebook, Instagram. I don't do X and I certainly don't do Snapchat. I've decided I'm too old to have any more social media platforms in my life. And for the young dentists out there, I have so much advice. I feel like I could just have one episode on advice, but if I can offer a few pearls, never stop learning, like find what gets you excited in dentistry and don't get bogged down on the day to day. Always be trying to better yourself because I've been a dentist for 20 years now and I'm still trying to get better. And I think that as soon as you're like, oh, what I do is good enough, and that's just that I'm just now going to grind it out, you're going to miss the boat. And so I really think always learning and finding what you love is really number one. And number two, don't let opportunities pass you by. I feel like there's so many amazing things I could have missed out on if I just leaned into the fear that came with them. And I just look back now, on things that have happened and things that I've done. And I'm so proud of them, but I'm proud of myself because I didn't give in to that fear. And so you just don't know what doors or windows are going to open for you if you aren't open for them. So definitely dentistry is just an amazing career and it can burn you out, but it could light a fire in you that you've never had before. You just have to be willing to take it.
Oh, that is such great advice. Dr. Pamela Maragliano Muniz, thank you so much for joining us. Such a great episode. Thanks again for listening to the Stress Free Dentist podcast. And don't hesitate to get in touch with me at info@thestressfreedentist.com. And if you haven't already, please subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Until the next episode, I'm Dr. Eric Block, the Stress Free Dentist.